Hi, I'm Darren, and welcome to Auto Atlantica. Mercedes is a name that everybody knows. It's one of the most famous in automotive history. Maybe a lot of people, though, don't know where the name actually came from. It's actually the name of the daughter of Daimler's sales consultant. I get excited at Mercedes, and I get particularly excited if I see a few Mercedes together. And that's what we have here, that belong to Jim and Julia here. And they've very kindly allowing me some time with them so we can talk about their cars. Right, Julie, Jim, who's the mastermind behind this collection?
I don't know. It's definitely a team effort. It's definitely a team effort.
Team effort.
Yeah, I'm usually the one that finds the cars. He's the one that gets them running. I usually make them look good. It's very much a team effort.
I know from chatting to you guys online that you've both always been into cars. And when you met, this sort of mutual passion became more of a thing.
Yes.
And what was it? Firstly, how did you both get into cars? And secondly, how did you sort of find that when you met, that your tastes in cars were so similar? Was that a surprise?
I'll let him go first about what got him into cars.
Truck was the first word I ever said. Literally. That was just it. There was no before.
Right.
It was just cars and you know, there's the common saying, you can't grow up, you know, with a collection of Hot Wheels.
Right.
And not continue on.
They just become bigger Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
I've always been mechanical. And
yeah.
At a young age, I was building bicycles and respoking wheels. And you know, I learned how to fix my dirt bike, which broke because either I fixed it or it wasn't going to run. And then after my first car, I either fixed it or it didn't work.
Right. Wasn't an option.
It wasn't an option. So then it just kind of grew from there. Got into Chryslers, got into Pontiacs, drag raced for years, got into German cars. Oddly enough, I bought a car from a friend over at the bar because it was broken, and I needed something that had better gas mileage. And ended up driving it, and I was like, "This is fun." So then I put wheels on it, I lowered it, body kit, and then I got away from the American stuff.
Firmly German now.
Yes.
And Julie, were German cars always your passion? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
From before I could even drive, I knew I wanted a Volkswagen GTI. That was my dream car. Got one at 17, had a couple of GTIs. That kind of morphed into Audi. But ironically, we met because of his Volkswagen GTI. So he drove it to work one day. It didn't run very well, so it was like just a blessing in disguise that he even drove it to work that day because it barely drove. But
it drove fine. It had a turbo system on it that didn't work.
So he managed to get it to work that day, and I saw it, and I was like, "Whose GTI is that?" And they said, "Oh, that's JT's." They called him JT at the dealership he worked for, and got to know him, and we became friends. And later on down the road, started dating. But so it was his GTI. If it wasn't for him driving his GTI to work that day, we never would have met. But so we both drove Volkswagens. Then we morphed into Audi. In fact, our wedding cake toppers were matching black and white Audis because we drove. I had an A4, he had an S4, and he custom painted them to match our actual cars on top of our wedding cake. But Mercedes has always had a special place in my heart. My mom always drove Mercedes growing up. She had R107s, R129s. In fact, you know, the R129 didn't have a back seat, but they installed a seatbelt back there for me, and I rode in the back seat. This was back in the 80s. Couldn't get away with that now, but
no, I got a story off camera that's similar to that, but I'm not going to bore everybody with it on camera. But yeah, our times change. But what prompted you guys to start building a collection?
Well, when we started running our own business, Jim retired from his day job and ran our business. And wasn't working in a 9 to 5 anymore, and he had time on his hands. And, you know, we thought, well, maybe we'll get into like flipping cars a little bit on the side, make a little extra money, you know, he has free time. And so it was actually that white wagon was the first car we bought as a flip. At the time, I had a W212 wagon as my daily driver. We had a W108 250S as a fun car. And we ran across this. It was 10 miles from our house, hadn't run in 10 years. It was at a shop, ironically, and they couldn't get it running. Bought it, had to have it towed home because at that time we didn't have a car trailer yet. Now we do. And in 2 days, Jim had it running and driving around the block. For 10 years, the car never drove. It was a multitude of issues, but you know, he's very hands-on and can usually get in there and figure out what the issues are. And within 2 days, he was driving it. And
but instead of flipping it, you decided to keep it.
as soon as he pulled in the driveway the first time with it, he goes, you know, we could just keep this car. And I said, I know, I knew as soon as we got this car home, we were going to keep it. But so since then, it's had a full respray and we've done a lot of work to it. But, you know, we've managed to flip some cars on the side, but a lot of them we just end up keeping.
And I've noticed that as we were talking earlier with many of these, they've got like slight modifications to sort of suit your own taste rather than keeping them completely stock.
Yep.
So that's sort of like, presumably you just like to put your own stamp.
Exactly. We never leave a car stock.
No.
I mean, I don't think there's any car we've ever bought, maybe the 911. It came with, yeah, the 108 we probably didn't do anything to either, but some cars you want to keep original, but some cars, you know, you want to put your little flavor on it.
Yeah.
We laugh because, you know, Jim and I don't really argue unless it's over wheels, because trying to find the right wheels for the car for us is a big deal. And so we'll spend days texting each other back and forth different wheels until we finally land on what we both like and what fits the car.
Well, actually, all of these cars, there was real no back and forth on the wheels. On other cars, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
On our W2, we had two W212s.
But you know, when they're a keeper and they're going in the collection,
Yes.
you just have the same thing in mind.
Yeah, we have very similar taste,
Yeah.
which helps because, you know, people were always saying, oh, it's great that you're both into cars. When we started dating, his mom goes, oh my God, you found a car girl. Well, that's a broad range. And, you know, no offense to Ford Mustang drivers, but if I had been driving a Ford Mustang or vice versa, we wouldn't be together because cars are so important to us in our lives that, you know, we're very fortunate that we have very much the same taste when it comes to cars.
Yeah. Yeah, that's quite something. That's something that I think most people don't have. I mean, every time I want to add a vehicle to my collection, it ends up being a negotiation that the UN would be proud of. But I think that's how it is for many people.
Yeah.
Okay, so W210 station wagon, or S210. I better get it right. I don't want to foul up in front of experts on Mercedes. So, yeah, so how long have you had this car? What year is it?
It's a 99. We've had it about a year. This car actually has a funny story because at the time I had a G63 G-Wagon, which was very problematic and in the shop a lot. So we bought this car as my kind of second daily driver for when the G-Wagon was broken down.
It was that bad.
Yeah.
And you've added these wheels separately.
We did.
Yeah, they are lovely. And these are ECS wheels, you were saying, Jim?
They are.
Yeah.
Yep. And we cut the springs to lower it
and slightly lowered. Yeah, it
Yes.
looks absolutely tremendous. And
it's only got 79,000 miles.
with the rack on the top, 79,000.
79,000. It had basically one owner. It traded a couple dealership hands after she traded it in. But we bought it from Minneapolis, and it's essentially a one owner car.
And which engine is this? Is in this one?
It's an M112.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely tremendous. Absolutely clean as a whistle inside as well. This is C124.
A124.
A124, the Cabrio, of course. See, I messed up again.
One of 1,698. sold in North America this year.
And this is a later, like post 93?
This is a 94, yeah.
It's a
They sold
94,
them
yeah. Because
93, 94, 95, the only years they sold them over here.
they were slightly facelifted with different headlights.
Yep, hood and headlights.
And then in America, of course, they then got the European style lights from this sort of facelift as well. So tell me about this car. Which engine has this got in it? And
this is an M104.
It's 104. Yeah. How long have you had it?
3 years. Yeah, 3 years or so.
So what drew you to it? Did you want a convertible in the collection, or?
I've always dug convertibles.
Mm-hmm.
We flipped a 97 129, and the kids are like, we have to keep it, it's convertible, but there was no back seat. And I just told her, and I said, we need a 124.
Yeah, yeah.
And she put a post out there in the group, and there was a guy that we knew, a friend of ours in California, and he's like, just buy mine.
Yeah.
You have one? He's like, yeah.
Yeah.
He bought it from an old guy and had it for like 3 days, and then came across a Silver Arrow 129, which is what he wanted. And this car just sat. He never drove. And it's got 84,000 miles on it.
Wow. And it looks like this one's slightly lowered as well. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's got H&R springs on it.
Yeah, lovely. And the coupes, I know in general, the values are really starting to rise on them. On the 124. Presumably that's the same story for the convertible as well. Because I was surprised, if you follow Haggerty's valuation tool, they were really starting to rocket.
Well, depending on who you ask,
yeah,
there are some people in the industry that have a list of Mercedes not to own, and this is one of them, because of the, all of the A124s had the biodegradable harnesses.
Right.
Couldn't buy one without it. And this one, it's either been swapped, because there's no way it could be in as good a shape as it is. So it had to have been changed. And you can buy a new one for this car still. And then the other reason is because of the hydraulic top.
Yeah.
Which last year I did all the cylinders.
Did you?
They've all been redone.
Yeah. Is it like the 129 where it'll leak on hydraulic?
Yeah. Although this one doesn't have those.
Right.
Those are still levers. So
right.
It won't leak on your pants. Like the 129.
So this is a beautiful T124. This is going to be a pre-facelift one. But you've got at least the European flush headlights on that. That was a little bit strange when they went with the flush headlights in America, but they had those like inserts.
There were laws preventing these headlights until 94. Right. Because even though the US allowed sort of composites from 84, they were still very different from the European ones. So these are actual European lights, aren't they? Yeah. They're not legit originals. They're aftermarket. They're of European design.
Yeah. But H4s are always better than the glowworms on heat that they had in the US back in those days. But anyway, so tell me about this car. I mean, you have this sort of penchant for collecting classic Mercedes, and this is, being an estate or a wagon, very, very quickly, like the 123, becoming hugely sought after. So is that the reason why you go for wagons a lot, because they are so sought after?
I think in general, we try to buy cars that we think are going to go up in value over time. So it's like an investment for us. We get to enjoy them. And at some point, if we ever sell them for a profit. Yeah. But the wagons in general, I've always been a wagon girl. We've had 6 or 7 wagons, mostly Mercedes, 1 Passat wagon, 5-speed manual, 6-speed. But we've always loved the wagons. The Mercedes are great because they have the 3rd row rear-facing seat.
Oh, they do. Yes,
and
they do.
Our kids love that. So that's kind of a neat feature of all the wagons that we've had. They all had the 3rd row back there. But I just love wagons. I just think they're
classic
so
steel huge steel sunroof.
Yeah.
That was a panoramic roof in the 80s practically, wasn't it? But also, what year is this one?
92.
The 92, so it's pretty much the last of that pre-facelift then. Yeah. Fantastic.
103.
and 103. So we've got an R129 here again. Now, explain these wheels to me. Are these ECS wheels or are these the real deal?
These are, the brand is Performa 25.
Okay.
And you can get them where it's printed on the wheel, and then I found these that aren't printed. That's what we went with. And it's, you know, the Aero 3s are just so expensive.
And you've got larger section tires on this, right? Compared with stock, or are they?
The outward diameter is exactly the same.
Is it really?
But they're spacers.
Okay.
We have spacers all the way around.
So that's what makes it gives it that appearance then. Okay, gotcha. So tell me about this. So why did you include a 129 in your collection? Because these have taken a while to get as much love as the 107.
They have, but these are going up.
They're starting to.
Quickly. Yes, they are. And we knew that. We wanted to add one to our collection. We had one 2 years ago that we had bought, and we flipped it. Beautiful blue with a blue hard top, blue soft top. It was a great car. But at the time, we didn't have this storage building and didn't have the room for it, and it didn't have a back seat for our kids. Now that our kids are getting a little bit older and we can do more date nights, a 2-seater, you know, is nice to have in the fleet. But after we flipped that blue one, we kind of missed it. And actually, I reached out to the guy who bought it, who was local, and he would have sold it back to us, but it had the known hydraulic issue with the top. And he didn't want to negotiate on the price because of it. And we ended up the same week buying a new truck. So I said, okay, it wasn't the right time anyways. So I have been casually looking for a 129 since then, and found this on Facebook Marketplace, about 2 months ago? 3 months ago? 3 months ago. And the lady posted it as a project, and I found it about 20, 30 minutes after she posted it, immediately messaged her, and apparently her phone blew up because it was priced so low. And I messaged her and she said, well, Julie, this is a project. And I said, I know, I'm willing to take on a project. We know what to do. And she had another guy that wanted to look at it. He was coming the next day. And I said, okay, well, let's let him look at it first. But then as she and I kept talking, I said, is there any way we could come before him? And she said, yes, I really want you to have the car. And so we literally dropped our kids off with the car trailer on the truck and drove straight to Pittsburgh the next morning. And so we started talking at 9 o'clock on Thursday night. 10 o'clock the next morning, we were in her driveway with the car trailer.
That's fantastic.
And brought it home. So it was a bit of a project because it needed all the top sides repainted. It had sat outside for quite some time. I think the clear coat had failed. So it was all faded. All the top sides were faded. So we just got it back from paint.
It had oil leaks. There was no power steering fluid in it.
Is this the V8?
Yeah.
It is the V8, so that's the one you want.
Yeah, and the one we sold was a 300, so we were.
You were trading up.
We were glad to find a 500.
Yeah.
Seats didn't work. Those all work now. Everything works.
Yep.
The one issue I see you guys have got with this car is that when your kids become dating age, that could involve some tricky conversations, I think.
Yeah.
But
we'll
anyway,
try not to think about that.
That's for a while, yeah.